Hey guys, my name is Alicia All. I am the founder of LevelUp Score, and today I'm excited to have Kent Argo on this spotlight today. Kent, would you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Allie. This is Ken Argo, owner of HomeEligible, and excited to be here talking to Allie today about how we got connected and how we met. It was sort of by accident as far as I was concerned. A little background on me: I've been involved in consumer finance for the last 15 years. I've run credit repair companies. I got out of that business about 3-4 years ago and started focusing on personal lending and debt consolidation. And through those experiences have sort of morphed into this hybrid that led me to want a credit monitoring platform in white label. And I was looking for solutions for that. And a lot of them were very, very expensive and weren't really fitting what I wanted. And that was how I connected with Allie and LevelUp Score. So when we first had our call, it didn't go the way I was expecting it to, but it was actually fantastic and really a breath of fresh air. You know, in the past, when I have looked at somebody's credit report or used an audit, credit report audit software in the past, I've taken that and then developed my own action plan that I would then use for clients who are looking to approve on home loans. And what I found in LevelUp Score was a wonderful mechanism to do that, to build the action plan. And, I wasn't sold out of the gate. I had to test it myself.
Glad you tested it, by the way. Glad you tested it.
Yeah. So, I would do my own action plan based off of a report. I would go through it. And this is the way that I've done it for a long time, is I'll, go line by line through a credit report. It's, the biggest, most time intensive part of what I do. And then put together an action plan based off of what the customer is looking to do, the client. And, I put the two side by side with LevelUp Score, and it really was nice to see how they align in the process. And it allows you to freestyle off of that depending on how you like to operate. So I've been using LevelUp Score now for a little while, and I'm actually integrating it into a lot of the new systems that I'm developing. And it's exciting. It's really a breath of fresh air in the industry. It's what needed to happen, in my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you. Very excited that you're on it too. So a little bit about Kent is that he is home eligible, and he really works with lenders in the lending, really tight with the lending space on making these action plans so they can turn around and go get their home loan. So I applaud you for all that, because I remember when I first got into the lending world, people would come into our office and we would deny them. And this was before I had any knowledge of credit, by the way, other than what I call knowing enough to be dangerous as a mortgage lender, right?
Yeah.
I was managing this company and I watched these people cry and like, everyone's denying me, but no one's telling me what to do. So you're out there helping those people who really do want to get approved, but they just don't know where to start. And the action plans are so valuable to give them direction. And I've had a lot of people personally say, like, it's like a big weight off their shoulder because now they know what to do. Before, they were just aimlessly trying to do things that maybe were even hurting their situation rather than improving it.
Sure. And, being an MLS trained for the purpose of knowing the underwriting process that LOs go through, to be more effective, to help folks approve, I've been familiar with the Wayfinders and the What If simulators for a long time, and they're great tools. They're expensive for the lender, and the big problem with them is that they make the false assumption that everything that is on the credit report is correct and accurate. And, most of us know at this point that most reports do have some sort of error on it. So it makes sense to have another set of eyes going through and actually looking and talking with the client to see, are these things accurate? Is this your account? And then through that, develop an action plan that lines up with what mortgage lenders are kind of expecting to see, and, using language that makes sense to them. So it just sort of integrates into the flow of that office nicely. So you can tell that, Allie developing this has experience in that area, because it really does dovetail very well into that process.
Yeah. And since you're in this world, question that, or I should say, when I speak to loan officers, I am a loan officer, and most people know that, right? But when I speak to loan officers and I ask them questions, because I love to interview people, and I'll say, hey, why don't you like credit repair companies? And the answer, quite frankly, almost always is because I don't want them to do disputes. And I usually don't get a loan back from the process. What would you say to a credit repair company if they're challenged in that same way? Like, what do loan officers really want from them?
So the disputes can create issues in underwriting. There's no doubt about it. Typically, in my experience, the problems come from disputes with a big dollar amount next to it. So you can get away with disputing some things so long as it's not affecting DTI and if we're saying late payments or things like that, then you can get away with disputing. By and large, I don't dispute. I don't like to, just because it creates headaches for the teams that I work with in mortgage. But there's a place for it. You just need to be strategic about it when you're doing it, and if you need to know what the client is looking for, right? So depending on what their end game is, will determine the action plan. So having that conversation up front with them, and then talking through, the timeline that they're under, because you can dispute things and then remove disputes if you've got enough time. If it's a fire drill situation and they've already found the house that they want, then it's an area that, personally, I don't recommend that you go into. So yeah, I don't dispute currently, except in a very rare situation.
Right. Yeah. I would say, and my experience as a lender, if it's identity theft, right? Or if it's blatantly not theirs, things like that obviously are important. But you're right. I think it's important that credit repair companies really know what their client's goal is, especially if they're working with mortgage lenders, and having an open communication with that lender of what they need out of the credit repair company. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Since you don't do disputes, unless it's on a rare occasion, right? Like what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Do you believe that taking that action plan that LevelUp Score creates for your consumer, if they do the things on the action plan, will they get to their goal?
Yes.
Do you even need to do disputes then? In most cases?
No. So, as I mentioned earlier, I really moved away from credit repair and got into personal lending and debt settlement, because more and more what I started to find was that the people's credit situation was really a debt situation. Their credit problem was a debt problem. They were tied together, and the only way we had to take care of debt before getting to working on the credit. You couldn't put the cart before the horses. I was just running into that on repeat, and we didn't really have a good solution for that. And that's why I became a lender to do consolidation loans to help restructure the debt, move it off revolving into an installment or what have you. LevelUp Score is ideal in that scenario, because as doing debt settlement, we now know who will delete if you pay them, who will take 50 cents on the dollar and delete, and then, on the flip side of that, who won't delete, right? So through the action plan, I can, it breaks down what to pay on what account. And then with that, I can add my notes and say, hey, this account will delete if you pay it, and they will take 50 cents on the dollar. This account over here, even though it's, looks equal to the other one, they're not going to delete. So they go to the back of the pile as far as priority for who you want to work with here. If we're going to throw money at these accounts, we want to get maximum benefit on your score for that. So I really like the action plan and LevelUp Score in that regard, because I can step through all the accounts there and organize and prioritize based off of what I know of those accounts, which is
great.
hugely
And
helpful.
because the end goal is to get that consumer back to the loan officer as fast as possible. And it might seem weird for a credit repair company to say, hey, I'm trying to get this person out of my door as fast as possible to the lender. But if you can do that, then you have the referrals that you're going to get are going to just be so plentiful. You don't need to have to keep people on forever, but there are, and I know we've talked about it in coaching calls, but like ways where you can keep the client on forever, even while providing the service that they need to get to their goal really fast. So
Yeah. That's a whole other thing, right? So I don't do the monthlies just because I feel like it aligns more closely with aligns my team with the LO and that team when we just are working to get them to their goal as quickly as possible. So but I've done it both ways and I see it, and that's not to say I won't again. There's an argument to be made both ways. Both ways can work really well, especially a lot of the clients that I work with, we have an initial goal that we need to get to. Maybe it's a score that's a target to be able to move forward with a home loan. But then once that happens, they can move forward, but they still want to improve things. So then we continue to work together after the fact. So, both models have a lot of merit, and I can see LevelUp Score working both ways. So it's a nice value add, and it saves a lot of time. I was spending 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes per account going through credit reports, and it just kind of gives you a high level overview that allows you to work off of that. And you still check everything, you're still looking through the report, but definitely a time saver.
yeah, I remember nights where I have so many plans to make before I had the LevelUp Score, right? And I'm creating these plans, be like an hour and a half on one client because they had 20 credit cards, right? You have to, because you have to, in your plan, it has to account for everything. You can't miss anything out. And then I think my eyes would go cross and I'd start, typing stuff that wasn't there. I don't know what I did, but there would be obviously human error involved.
That's something else that I want to speak to. So having owned credit repair companies and managed teams, so having software that allows you as the head of the company or somebody with most experience in the company to actually be doing the important parts, the client facing, the real analyses. To me, as I scale up again, it's really nice to have a different angle instead of hiring a big team and you've got folks that are dealing with the customer and analyzing reports for folks. Personally, I like having software that allows me with the most experience in the company to be able to step in and handle that initial setting the goal, setting the cadence, setting the expectation, and then allowing the team to work off of that, versus having intake, onboarding going through to an employee. Even though some of them can do a great job, sometimes you get really great outcomes in that regard. However, sometimes the image is not, the experience for the consumer isn't necessarily aligned with, what you envision as the owner of the company. And I think that having the initial consultation and setting that pace and the expectation adds a lot of value and improves the experience for the consumer.
Yeah, I agree. And in my business, the same thing. Like I'm doing that initial thing. And then the nice thing about LevelUp Score is once you have the plan and you set up those initial expectations, then you can have people who are not necessarily knowledgeable in credit do that back end work because if the plan is already laid out, they're really just kind of regurgitating it, right?
Right. Yeah. Just kind of guiding, sometimes we're herding cats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having that guidance mechanism there is huge, but not necessarily the blazing the trail, right? That should be done up front and then move as it needs to based off of what's happening on the report.
So is there any single thing that if you were to want to tell a credit repair company if they're going to work with a loan officer, what they should absolutely do? Is there anything that or say?
I would say that working with a loan officer, in my experience, the biggest turnoff to a loan officer has been their experience with not being kept in the loop as far as what's happening. A lot of lenders have experienced working with credit repair companies, and they feel that they're just sending their clients into the black hole, never to be heard from again. So having a mechanism to stay in front of the client, keep the lines of communication open, and also keep the lender involved, let them see what's happening. That would be my best advice. Keep them in the loop so that they know what's going on. Not all of them want to know. Some of them just want, hey, let me know when they're cleared to close. But others want to know, at least initially, what you're doing and how you're doing it. So having that transparency here. And again, LevelUp Score gives you a tool to do that. That's hugely advantageous.
And I find that with the level of score plans, the loan officer will actually help you help the clients. Some of them that want to be a little bit more hands-on, like, hey, did you do the things Kent told you to do on the plan? Right.
Absolutely.
But what I found is sometimes clients are liars, right? They'll say, well, Kent never told me to do that. But the cool thing about the way that you do business and the way that I do business is we're showing that plan. It's on the plan.
Yep.
We do a video. So no one can say we didn't do what it's there.
Yes.
I think that's obviously huge.
And when you have clients that have a few months kind of stacked together, it's nice to be able to see right there on the action plan where if they've come up or if they've gone down. And then you can talk about that with them. The lender can see it. So, yeah.
The number one question, why did my score go down? You're supposed to be helping me, Kent. Why did it go down?
Right. And then you can come back in and say, hey, remember how we talked about, paying your credit card on this day versus that day? Like, you didn't do that, did you?
Didn't do that. Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah, accountability and just keeping your nose clean is important.
Yeah.